zip for your daily projects. So, back on another episode of Angular TypeScript, and for today we'll be focusing on Angular components. So, let's dive right into it. So, what is an Angular component? So, in Angular, a component is a TypeScript class that has an add component decorator, and that decorator is an annotation that lets Angular know what type of class is being implemented, and that decorator has some metadata regarding the class on how Angular should process, instantiate, and use that particular class. And you get to see this in code. Your component essentially is the basic building block when it comes to an Angular application, and that's what gives the user its the user interface. Essentially, that's what the user interacts with um, um, in an Angular application. So whenever a user clicks on a button, see some text, that's what the rendering that happens at that level is what components offer in the entire development stack of Angular. And to create a new component, you just use the ng generate component heroes component. And the reason I chose heroes component is because we're going to be following the Angular tutorial, which is offered in the angular.io. If you go to angular.io tutorials, and you're gonna see tutorials of heroes, which is what we'll be focusing on, and we'll be taking this from top until the end. So if you've watched my previous videos, some of the stuff that's in the beginning, the introduction, I've already covered some of the details that you'd need to know how to set up your environment, how to generate or build your first boilerplate Angular project, and the nitty-gritties when it comes to setting up your Angular workspace. So that's already covered in my previous episode. Please do check those out, and I'll also attach the links to those in the description below as well. So this is what we'll be following, and this is just the beginning and overview of what the project covers. You're gonna see at the end of this project, you should see two buttons which have two different views: the dashboard and the heroes, which will give us a heroes list view, and we'll be able to play around that particular web application. And all of these, the details of a hero, you can be able to see all of that. So this is reading the data of the heroes list, and this is the actual heroes list that we can go through, which is nothing fancy. And this is sort of like the architecture that they follow, or the design that they follow when it comes to this particular application. And we'll be going into more details bit by bit, and how we can use the different sort of directives in Angular, or different components and elements in Angular, and you can see how you can plug those in your real world application. And yeah, that's it. This is like the live demo. They show you what to expect at the end of the project. So let's just see creating a project. This will be the setting up, and which I've already covered in my previous episodes. So you get to see that, and you will be up and running ASAP, which is super amazing. And yeah, this is the creating a project and all of that, which sort of looks good. But for today, we are going to be focusing on creating a new component, which is, we're gonna start from creating our new component. Let's go and see. This is just the basic creating a project, and then we will need to be here. Right, the hero editor, and this is where we want to be, where we create our component. So going over a component according to the definition, it has an add component decorator, and it's a TypeScript class. And if we're looking into our code, this is what we already scaffolded, and Angular gave us this boilerplate code when you're creating a new project, hello Angular project, which is good. So a component is the basic building block, and Angular gave us the app.component, which is what we have now, and it has this decorator add component, and it's not limited to these properties. We can also have more properties like your providers, like your services, and then here you can add your services, but you'll get to see this in action. You can add even more stuff like your animations and some other cool stuff that you'd want to add. So it's not only limited to these three, but when you create a new component, it only scaffolds these three, which is what you're going to need. So you'll have the selector, and the selector is what you sort of like the reference to your particular component, and that is what's going to be displayed in the view when you use this particular selector reference, and then this particular reference will call this template URL, which is the HTML code that the user will interact with or see on their web browser, and then this is the style sheet associated with this particular component. And then any logic that goes in here, fetching data from the server, updating data, reading, and all those crude operations. This is where they happen, and the business logic sort of sits. And you will see as we build services, you will add providers at this level, where we will plug in a service that we will want to then call the HTTP methods on, and run those functions accordingly. So you'll see some amazing stuff, but at this point we're just going to deal with the component and what it does. So this component has that selector, which is the reference, and then has a template URL, and it has a styles URL. So this can be inline. By inline I mean you can also just write the HTML directly at this point by using template and actually passing in, it's in h1. So we have this property here, which is the title, hello Angular. So this, for instance, says hello Angular on heroes. We just want to see that. So at this point we will just show the title. So instead of the HTML that is there, we don't care whatever is there, we just want to see what this code will do for us. So here I'm just going to say Angular serve open. So that dash o is open in browser, so it's going to run that. I'm going to open it in browser, and then in the browser what we should see is only that. So right now what we did here, we just bind this property into our HTML, which you're going to see just now. And that HTML is no longer going to call this particular file, which has the boilerplate code, but it's going to run it's just going to display this particular text right here. And let's see that in action. Boom, hello Angular on heroes, and that has been executed. So this looks good. And all right, so that's what the component looks like, and this is what you're gonna get whenever you create a component. And I hope this sort of makes it more simpler. It's basically a TypeScript class, and that particular class has metadata about it, the reference, the template URL, which HTML it uses, the style. So any style that you put in here, it's gonna affect only this particular component. It's not gonna go and affect other things. But if you want to have a global style sheet, then you come to your source and the styles, and then this is where your global style sheet will sit, and then you can style that accordingly. So yeah, let's just create a new component. Let's leave this as is, and then what we're gonna do now, we're gonna add a component here. Let me just close that, and then what I want to do, I'm in Angular, I want to cd src, go to app, and let's go in there, and then we are going to follow okay, this is the boilerplate code, that's fine. What I want to do now is I just want to open, okay, I can close this and I can close this. I want to open this, and then I'll take that. Let's come back here and paste that, and let's see. Boom, now we have a new component, gave us a new folder which is heroes, and let's see this in action. So we scaffolded a new one, and it gave us a boilerplate code. So we have our component, it has component which comes from the Angular core, and then it has an on init. So on init, it's gonna hit that particular function, and then we can do some logic on init, fetch data, or do some function that we want to do. And we also have a constructor here which tells us how we can access this particular component. If you want to pass in some variables, you'll see that also. But if we want to call this component as a pop-up on a model, we can be able to pass data into that particular model call, and then we'll pick it up at this point, and then we can use that data however we want. But you'll see that in action, which is some cool stuff. So yeah, now we have a new component, and that's how it looks. And then let's see how we can use the component. Let's just do this. So you see heroes works. I just want to use the selector, which is app heroes. So if I take app heroes and I come in here, I'm going to remove the boilerplate code, and I'm going to say just put in h1 at this point, and I'm going to say no, I'm just gonna bind title here. So this is the title, which is good, and then I'm gonna call the heroes, and now I want to see this in action. So I'm gonna use, as you can see, the tag that I used here is actually the selector, which is the reference to this component here, and then it's going to show this component here, and then it's going to show this HTML which has that heroes works. So let's put that, oh man, did that by mistake. I just wanted to do that here. So let's do that, and then let's see this in action. So you see Angular is able to pick up that, oh, you already have that, so it's nothing to be done, which is awesome. So let's run that and see it in action. So according to what we just ran now, we should see the title, and we should see heroes works. Let's just give that a few and wait for it. Boom, hello Angular, which is the title, and heroes works. So that's how we access the access this particular component at that particular level. But there are different ways you can access a component. One is to plug it in as a tag, just like this, and the other one, if you want to call it in in a pop-up like a model. Then you can also have your met dialogue, um, and you will see how that works later on in the series, where we now start plugging in the fancy, good-looking, um, much more responsive elements into our code. So for now, this should be sufficient, and I hope you got to see what components are, what they do, and what builds up a component. And until next time, guys, I greatly appreciate you viewing, and I hope you do like and subscribe for more content. Please stay tuned. Thank you.